Okay, guys, listen. I am going to run through this as fast as I absolutely can. We have more slides this time around than we did last time, um, but I'm going to go through it quick. And I'm doing that one for you guys here. In fact, this is you guys already got the reduce slide or today. Here's the reuse. But I'm going to do this for you guys, one, because I want you to not have to spend a lot of time doing this, and two, I have someplace I need to be. So we have a hard limit here. I'd like to get it done in 10 minutes. We'll see, but probably more like 15. But I do hope that you guys go through this. I hope I'm not just wasting this next 10, 15 minutes, even though I should have been doing it earlier. It's my fault where I'm at. But hopefully you guys will actually utilize this and it'll be beneficial to you. So of the 3 R's, like I said, the best one is to reduce 100%, to start from the top and just not use some of these single-use plastics, some of these other materials. The second best thing to do is to reuse them, repurpose them. The third R is just recycle, but reuse them in ways, guys. Just using a plastic bag again, it goes to the life cycle of the product, and I believe, a video for that, or if nothing else, there is an article in this chapter. It's the application article that's usually at the end of all the chapters. It does a great job of talking about how plastic bags are actually better than cotton or linen bags, so long as you reuse them at least one time. So if you guys don't have a place in your house that has all those plastic bags, for you to reuse them as trash can liners, that's what we do in our house a lot of times. Or I bring my lunch in them a lot of times. I don't have a lunch box because I got a fridge, so there's no need for a lunch box, but I'll reuse those bags. Great opportunity to use one of the 3 R's in a very productive way. But reuse, using a product or material that was intended to be discarded, using them for something else. I got an example there of a bird feeder. I don't know if I'd want to hang a gallon jug from my tree, but you know, it's better than nothing. Recycle is the third R, and in my opinion, the third option. The worst option of the three, but definitely, if it's the only option you have, make sure that you do it. There are some materials. I talk about single-use plastics. That's a complete scam. Metals are different. So I have cans over there. Metals are much more likely to be recycled. In fact, most cans, I want to say it's 40% of all new cans are made from recycled aluminum. So metal is a little bit better than some of the other things. That bench there that you see, or even a lot of decking material that's made out of that composite plastic, that is oftentimes partially recycled materials that's being used there. But there's closed loop recycling, which is recycling a product into the same product. Aluminum cans are a good example of that. Most aluminum cans that get recycled go back into the production of aluminum cans. And then there's open loop recycling, where one product is recycled into another. There's also composting. So this is something that I've done in the past. I've never had a composting bin, but I will very much discard of any food waste outside, knowing that Mother Nature will take care of it. That's not true composting, but I have used it in that way. But this is where you take organic matter and you allow it to decompose under controlled conditions. It takes a long time, and it does take up a lot of space. You have to, if you're going to do this at your own home, you have to create these bins. Oftentimes they don't smell very good in the decomposition process, but the soil that you get out of the bottom is very fertile and can be used in your garden. Landfills are the primary use. This is what most of our municipal solid waste goes to. The problem with landfills is leachate, which is a liquid that contains elevated amounts of pollutants that oftentimes goes into the ground. Now we line our landfills so that this doesn't happen, but we then close them up for the rest of time, and I don't believe for a second that lining lasts forever. So eventually, some of this material does seep into the ground, and God forbid it does go into our groundwater sources or other things like that. Sometimes, because it's so compact and full, we don't get enough air to allow for the proper decomposition of the anaerobic bacteria that are at work here, eating the detritus. They don't have enough to do so, and so some of the stuff that we are sealing, we're literally sealing it in tombs, and it never goes away. Then there are sanitary landfills. This is our attempt to do the whole let's bury it in the ground thing, better. This is where we get engineered group facilitate our facilities designed to hold municipal solid waste as little or with as little contamination to the surrounding environment as possible. So they're essentially clay tombs. They have pipes to collect the leachate so that we can pump it off and it doesn't just go into the ground. There's also ways of extracting the methane gas that's coming from it. It's an incredibly important. This whole idea of re-engineering and rethinking landfills is a great thing. Go ahead and get all this down. Again, I'm going quick, but I don't want to spend a lot of time. Incineration. This is in my opinion the best option. I love this option, and I don't know why it's not utilized more. 75% of municipal solid waste is combustible. That would mean that if we could instill and insist on incineration, 75% of our stuff could get completely just burned away. Okay, all this waste not going into a landfill, just getting burned away. It could reduce waste volume by 90%. Think about a landfill that you never have to open another one, because if you're only putting in 10% a year, as opposed to the 100% a year that you were putting in before, and let's say it was a 30 or 40 year or maybe 50 year landfill, you just now increase that by a factor of 10. A 50 year landfill now will potentially last 500 years, okay, because we're burning away the other stuff. Now the ashes do have to be put in the landfill. That is one of the downsides of incineration, but the upside is all kind of highlighted in this video. If you want to look it up, it's it's from Seeker. And it's why don't we burn our trash? And it talks about how other countries do this, and they have a very robust incineration program. And I wish that the United States would follow suit. Of course, there are some downsides. There's definitely some issues with the emissions in that regard, but I still think it's better than burying our soil, or excuse me, our trash in the ground. So the bad thing about it, we kind of highlighted some of the good. The bad is that it does produce, we mentioned this as well, it does produce harmful greenhouse gases. It's more expensive to build a incineration chambers for this. And because it's all being burned, and people think that it's a cleaner alternative, which it absolutely is, they might not recycle as much, but recycling has its own issues, as we talked about. So hazardous waste is a whole other thing that we need to kind of talk about. It is ranked based off its 4 characteristics of ignitability, corrosivity, reactivity, and toxicity. And it's controlled by what's called the Superfund Act of 1980, which is where the federal government imposed a tax on chemicals and chemical and petroleum industries, and that money was earmarked specifically for these hazardous waste sites. There's still a lot of issues with what's called brownfields. These are Superfund designated locations with a high risk to public health. And there's 1,000 of these in Chicago alone, where there is hazardous waste there, and it needs to be disposed of and cleaned up. The reason that there's 450,000 of these just throughout the United States is because they're very difficult to clean up, very costly to clean up. So the process is ongoing. And with everyone that we take off of the Superfund site, or as a Superfund site, another one gets added on. One of the things that we absolutely have to do is life cycle analysis. And again, we kind of I told you guys there's a place in your book for you to read about this in this chapter. These are tools that examine the material use and release throughout the lifetime of the product. A lot of times they'll say this is better based off of the way it's manufactured, or better based off the way that it can be, its end of life is, or the way it can be recycled. But you have to take into account the entirety of the life cycle analysis, which is why I've said before, a cotton bag is worse for the environment as a whole from its beginning, its origin, all the way to its end of life, is worse for the environment than a petroleum-based plastic bag. And it goes into what's called integrated waste management. This idea of life cycle analysis is a part of integrated waste management, which employs several waste reduction, management, and disposal strategies to help reduce the impact that we have on the environment. So this video, again, I just don't want to waste your time with too many videos. These are great. I love them. But this talks about why this bag is worse than plastic. That's all we got. So I'm not going to play this. Again, I'm going to stop it there because I want you guys to have it. I told you I was going to keep this hopefully at 10 minutes, and I'm right at 9 minutes and 40 seconds, so that's awesome. Guys, make sure that you get these notes down. I think they're helpful, and I will see you guys tomorrow for the last day of notes that you will have in this class, which is pretty awesome.